Okay, with chapter 4.3 we are getting into the meat of fractions. Not the hardest part, but some meat. Multiplying fractions. If you have some fraction a over b and you multiply it to some fraction c over d, what you do is you take a times c, so you multiply the numerators for a new numerator. Then you take your b times your d for a new denominator, provided that b and d do not equal 0, because you cannot divide by 0. And remember, reduce as needed. Okay? The unspoken rule of fractions is that you have to simplify or reduce to lowest terms. Now, the top of page 234 has a physical illustration of fractions. Look at this on your own. So, if I have 2/3 times 5 over 11, well, 2 times 5 is 10. And then 3 times 11 is 33. Can I reduce this? No, because the only things that go into 10 are 2 times 5, and the only things that go into a 33 are 3 and 11. Now, 1/4 times 1/2. 1 times 1 leaves 1. 4 times 2 leaves 8. If you have questions, ask. Now, reduce as needed. You could take 6 times 14 and 7 times 27, but there's a nice thing here, and I'm going to do this. 2 times 3 is 6, and 14 is 2 times 7, and that gives us 7, and then 27 happens to be 3 times 3 times 3. Aha, there's a 7 divided by a 7. Those two go away. And a 3 divided by a 3 goes away. So that leaves 2 times 2 up top, which is 4. And a 3 times a 3, which is 9. Now, the other way would have been to take 6 times 14, and I promise you that's ugly. That's like 84. And I don't even want to try to figure out 7 times 27. So, when you get something that really big, it's not going to look like it reduces. So, doing this shortcut tends to help. Now, I'm going to shortcut it even more than that. I know that 4 goes into 4 one time, and 4 goes into 32 8 times. Alright? And 23 is a prime number. 7 is a prime number. And so 8 obviously doesn't go into 23. So 23 times 1 is 23. And 8 times 7 is 56. If you do not know your times tables, people, you are going to be hurt by this. You really, really, really need to learn your times tables if you do not know them already. And if you do anything like this by hand, you need to show your work, and you need to box in your answers. Now, spun is the first thing I'm going to deal with. Multiplying signed numbers. Same sign, positive answer. So deal with your signs first. Now, we're timesing. Does 6 go into 30? Yes, it does. 6 goes into 6 once, and 6 goes into 30 5 times. Does 13 go into 26? Aha, it does. 13 goes into 13 once, and 13 goes into 26 2 times. Now 1 times 2 leaves us 2, and 1 times 5 leaves us 5. If you have questions, just ask. Now, on number F, 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 9 3 times, and yes, I can skip over that one fraction because it's in the top here and this is in the bottom here. Now 2 goes into 2 once and into 16 8 times. So 1 times 1 times 3 leaves 3. 1 times 5 times 8 is 40. And I know I'm going pretty fast, so make sure you ask questions if you need help. Now, 4 goes into 4 once, and 4 goes into 8 twice, and an x kills an x. So 3 times 2 is left, which is 6, and 1 times 5 is left, which is 5. Number H. Remember, an x squared is an x times an x. And I always do these problems this way. And since we're timesing, y cubed is y times y times y. And then over an x and a y. And it's okay that I switched their order. And we usually like to put variables, multiple variables, in alphabetical order. X kills x, y kills y. We're left with 1x and 2 y's, so it becomes x and y squared. Now, in the denominator, we could say divided by 1, but when there's a 1 on the bottom, we know that we get a whole number. And again, using like we did here, 2/5 to the 4th power is 2/5 times 2/5 times 2/5 times 2/5. And 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 again makes it 8, and times 2 again makes it 16. And then 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 is 125, and then times 5 again makes us 625. Now, if I can't reduce 2 over 5, I cannot reduce 16 over 625. Now, number last on this part. Negative 1/4 to the 2nd power is negative 1/4 times negative 1/4. And remember, a negative kills a negative. Then 1 times 1 is 1, and 4 times 4 is 16. And I guess I should be boxing in my answers. Now, a reciprocal is a fraction flipped over. Your book says also that the product of a fraction and its reciprocal equals 1. I don't like that because it really doesn't tell me what to do. So I like this, a fraction flipped over. So find the reciprocal of these fractions. So that would be a 5 over 2, and don't put in equals because that's not true. Now, remember, a whole number is a fraction over 1, so its reciprocal would just be 3 over 1. And then here, just keep your negative out front or put it up top. 11 over 7, negative 11 over 7. And then here, 5 over 1, but a fraction over 1 is the same thing as just a whole number. Now, dividing fractions. We're going to use the same rule we did with subtracting signed numbers. Leave it, change it, change it. So we leave the first fraction as it is, change divide to times, and we take the reciprocal, or we flip this fraction over. And it's also, on the condition that B, C, and D cannot equal 0, because if so, they would end up with zeros in a denominator, and we can't have that. And again, unspoken rule, reduce. Now the middle of page 237 has a physical illustration, and again, look at it on your own. Good news, division is just multiply with that one extra rule. Leave it, change it, change it. Yahoo! I like it when it stays the same. So, 3/4 divided by 1/8, leave it, change it, change it. So it gives us 3/4 times 8/1. Then 4 goes into 4 once and into 8 twice. And that leaves us 3 times 2, which is 6, over 1 times 1, which is 1. So that just leaves us with a 6 as our answer. Now, leave it, change it, change it. So 5/16 times 4/3. 3 does not go into 5, so I can't simplify that at all. But 4 goes into 4 once and into 16 4 times. 5 times 1 is 5, and 4 times 3 is 12. Leave it, change it, change it. It's not getting too bad at this point right now, but down the road it's gonna get a little bit worse. 2/5 times 2/1. 2 and 5 don't clean up. 1 and 2 don't clean up. So 2 times 2 is 4, and 5 times 1 is 5. How are you doing? Ask if you got questions. So leave it, change it, change it. The first thing I'm going to do though is kill signs, because same sign divided, positive answer. So now 7/12 times 6/5. 6 goes into 6 once, into 12 twice. 7 times 1 is 7. 2 times 5 is 10. And you can use a calculator to shortcut some of this, but I won't teach it to you until you get to Math 65. Now, remember, that's a whole number over 1. Leave it, change it, change it, and at the same time, I'm going to expand the x squared. So, 2x/3 times 1/3xx. And 1x kills this x. But notice I still have an x on the bottom. And the 2 doesn't reduce, and obviously the 1 doesn't reduce. So that leaves me 2/9x. Ow. This is getting into order of operations. I have to do the parenthesis stuff before I can do divide, because parenthesis is bigger dog than divide. I also have a positive divided by a negative, so I'm going to end up with a negative answer, but hang on to that. So 4 goes into 8 twice, and obviously 4 goes into 4 once. So that gives us 3/14 divided by -3/4. Now we use the leave it, change it rule. So 3/14 times -4/3, and yes, it is okay if I bring the negative up top. and a positive times a negative according to Spun. Unlike numbers, negative answer. Now, 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 3 once. 4 doesn't go into 14, but since they are both even, I know that I can divide both of these by 2. So 2 goes into 4 twice, 2 goes into 14 7 times. So now 1 times 2 is 2, and 7 times 1 is 7. That one is a hard problem, so you need to ask if you don't understand this. Now, is negative 2/3 a solution of negative 1/2 x equals 1/3? Well, we take negative 1/2, and this says times a negative 2/3. A negative kills a negative. 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 2 once. And 1 times 1 is 1. And 1 times 3 is 3. So 1/3 is 1/3. So that answer is yes.